There are a lot of moving parts when it comes to building a website, and it's not just the build. The website's got to live somewhere, right? And that is where hosting comes in, which isn't always straightforward. You've got shared hosting, you've got VPS hosting, you've got dedicated hosting. So which one is right for you? Hi, I'm Julia Taylor, CEO and founder of GeekPack. Today, I'm going to run through the differences of shared hosting, VPS hosting, and dedicated hosting, so you better understand each one and then decide which one is best for you. Most people, when they build their first website, they start with shared hosting. So let's start there too. Shared hosting is exactly that. It is a space where you are sharing with dozens or hundreds or even thousands of other websites. It is generally the cheapest option, but that's because you are sharing all of the resources. So as an example, imagine that you are living in a big apartment complex and everyone that lives there shares the elevator and the parking and the pool. With shared hosting, you are sharing the CPU time, the memory, the disk space. Pros of this is that it's generally the cheapest option. I've seen shared hosting for as little as $2 a month. Another benefit of shared hosting is that it's really beginner friendly. So a lot of people who are just getting started with their first website will go with shared hosting. Now the cons, as I'm sure you guessed, is that you are sharing resources with a lot of other websites. And this can and does really affect your site performance. You have minimal control over the server and the performance, so it really makes it hard to scale due to limited storage. Not only that, security is not guaranteed. So if another website on the same server as your website, if they get hacked, there's a good chance that your website will be affected. So it's a great cheap option for those with smaller websites and for those just getting started. But if you're looking for something more, there are other options. Next up, let's talk about VPS hosting. Now, VPS stands for Virtual Private Server. Now, don't let the name mislead you. Yes, it's private to some extent, but you are still sharing some resources. Now, the difference to shared hosting is that with VPS, you are sharing the server with less sites, and it's actually broken up into separate environments. So as an example, it's like you owning a condo. There are multiple condos on the same property, but you are responsible for your own upkeep. So you have your own allocated parking spot. And with VPS hosting, it's the same. You have a space that no one else can come into. But there are some resources you do still share, CPU and memory. But a portion of those resources are fully dedicated to you, so you can scale as much as you like. The pros of VPS hosting is you have a fast and secure server at a more affordable price than dedicated hosting. You also have a lot more control, so you can scale as required. Now, the downside of VPS hosting is if you choose an unmanaged host, you need to have a lot more technical knowledge to figure out the ins and outs. You're also going to want to do some research on the actual hosting company to make sure that they're not overselling their servers. So VPS hosting is the next step up after shared hosting if you're really getting tired of poor site performance and not really having enough control. The last type of hosting is dedicated hosting. And with this option, the server is 100% yours. No sharing. Mine. It is your own single server. You can have as many websites on there as you like. You can break it up into different environments, all entirely up to you. It's very much like owning your own house. You don't need to share that space with anyone, unless you have a family, of course. You get your own parking, you can build a pool, you can do what you like. Now, the pros of this are pretty obvious. The sky is the limit. It's the fastest option, it's the most secure, and it is there to do with as you please. Now, the downside, as I'm sure you have guessed, is the price. It can get expensive. Now, you're also going to need some technical knowledge in order to maintain it and look after it, and you are responsible if anything goes wrong. Although there are some host companies, depending on what you pay, that provide some support. So dedicated hosting is really for those big websites that have lots of traffic. And I'm talking hundreds of thousands of visits a month. And dedicated hosting is for businesses that have the technical staff employed to look after, maintain that server. So as you can see, there are different options available depending on your needs. What I will add is it's very important to do your research on the hosting company before you decide. There are hundreds of options out there, and for every good hosting company, there is a bad one. Did you enjoy that comparison? Why don't you check out my other video on WordPress.com versus WordPress.org, where I compare the two so you can get a good understanding of which one is right for you.